10 Star Wars, Clone Wars episodes better than the entire prequel trilogy. Star Wars. The Clone Wars is one of the best stories in the franchise, with several episodes outranking the entirety of George Lucas' prequel trilogy. The Clone Wars nestles neatly into the Star Wars timeline, taking place across the 3-year gap between Star Wars, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and Star Wars, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. The Clone Wars timeline thus covers a lot, from the trials and tribulations of the Jedi Order in wartime to how the titular conflict affects the wider galaxy. This expansive setting allowed the show to include many great characters and storylines, leading the Clone Wars to become regarded as one of Star Wars' best TV shows. This also meant that people viewed George Lucas' prequel trilogy very differently, thanks to the heaps of context the Clone Wars provided. Characters that were previously underwritten felt much more fleshed out, as did the prequel era overall. While Lucas movies have been the subject of a period of revisionism recently, there is no denying that the Clone Wars has many episodes that outrank the movies of the divisive Star Wars trilogy. Orders is the 4th episode of Star Wars, the Clone Wars' 6th season. The episode concludes the Fives arc, which centers on Clone Trooper 5555 as he attempts to uncover a conspiracy surrounding inhibitor chips that are implanted in the heads of each clone trooper. This addressed the plot hole of Star Wars Order 66. After the prequel trilogy, many wondered how the clones instantaneously turned on the people they had fought alongside for 3 years without remorse. Orders reveals exactly how, unveiling that Palpatine implanted them with chips so that they would immediately see the Jedi as threats. Fives' determination to uncover this and failure to do so make his journey an infinitely sad one. Beyond Fives himself, the overall plight of the clones is ultimately so much more heartrending. Revenge of the Sith's plot hole is given a solid reason for existing, and the clones are made into tragic heroes rather than the lifeless, traitorous CGI creations they were in the prequel movies. For this reason, the Clone Wars Orders outranks the prequels. Star Wars Mortis gods are some of the most interesting elements ever introduced in the franchise, thanks to the Clone Wars. Lucas' psychedelic, fantastical adventure into the Force itself, to explore the prophecy of the Chosen One, is endlessly intriguing. The visuals, the character explorations, and the thematic meaning are all perfect, as Ghosts of Mortis proves. This episode explores the depths of Anakin Skywalker more intently and interestingly than anything in the entire prequel trilogy. Accompanying this with Star Wars getting weird, in the best way, was always a recipe for success. The ongoing exploration of Mortis elements proves just how great this arc was, and how it was more engrossing than the more surface-level prequel movies. As with Ghosts of Mortis, Sacrifice lends itself to the more mystical depiction of the Force. Sacrifice is Star Wars, the Clone Wars Season 6, Episode 13, rounding off what was once the final season with an exploration through the Force as Yoda seeks the secret of becoming one with the mystical energy field after death. Carnage of Krell also explores the clones better than the prequel trilogy ever did. By putting the clones under the command of someone who sees them solely as disposable numbers, the clones are humanized in a way neither Attack of the Clones nor Revenge of the Sith bothered with. Carnage of Krell solidifies that the clones are not just numbers, they are men, with feelings and relationships and souls. This is all mingled with the lingering shroud of the dark side, a terrifying villain in Krell himself, a new, visually stunning planet, great action, and a level of maturity that most animated shows, or the prequels, possess. It has long been known that Lucas' biggest mistake during the prequel trilogy was killing off a powerful Star Wars Sith Lord like Darth Maul. The Clone Wars brought him back, and while this could have turned into an unearned plot point, the Lawless proves it was a masterstroke. Maul's plan to take Mandalore, thus gaining power for himself, all while disposing of Obi-Wan Kenobi's former lover, Satine Kryze, and getting revenge on his old enemy, is tragically, deliciously dramatic. The action this causes is exciting and beautifully animated, with Maul's scheming at its center. This ends with an all-timer lightsaber battle between Maul, his brother, Savage Opress, and Darth Sidious himself. The Lawless is the Clone Wars at its best, which alone puts it above the prequel movies. That said, given how it redeems one of the prequel's biggest mistakes, it becomes even clearer as an episode of the show that is better than any Star Wars prequel. The prequel's wooden dialogue and performances often meant that most characters were disappointing, aside from a few standout moments. The Clone Wars, however, introduced some of the best Star Wars TV characters that quickly became even better than those in the movies. Ahsoka Tano is one of those, and The Wrong Jedi proves why. This episode sees Ahsoka Tano lose faith in the Jedi Order, leaving its ranks for good. Aside from a genuinely intriguing mystery, some good fight scenes, and a tense narrative, The Wrong Jedi explores a key theme of the prequel trilogy better than the movies ever did. How the Shroud of the Dark Side was affecting the Jedi, and the hubris that it wrought among the members of the Order, should have been a focus of the prequels. The Wrong Jedi knew this and used Ahsoka's story to explore it to great effect. This not only showed the flaws of the Jedi, but it made Ahsoka much more sympathetic, all while further exploring Anakin's dwindling faith in the Order. This was all done in the mature way that makes the Clone Wars special, with this episode one of many that outshines the prequels. The final arc of Star Wars. The Clone Wars is the Siege of Mandalore, with all 4 episodes ranking better than the prequels, and many other Star Wars stories, for that matter. Shattered is the 3rd episode in this batch, exploring Ahsoka's experience of Order 66 as the clone she has befriended and served alongside turn on her. As already alluded to, Order 66 was much more surface-level in Revenge of the Sith at the time of its release, with only the Clone Wars delving into how truly tragic it was. Shattered adds to this, with Ahsoka's closest friends trying to kill her, led by another great Star Wars TV character, Captain Rex. Seeing Rex fight against his inhibitor chip to warn Ahsoka about Fives, tying back to Orders, only to later succumb to it, is heartbreaking. Ahsoka's earlier Force vision of Anakin's attack against Mace Windu ties the show to Episode 3 perfectly, with the clone's attempt to kill Maul offering a heap of action. Shattered takes the relationships and character dynamics that were built over 7 seasons and, well, shatters them. This makes it one of the more mature entries in the show, as well as one of the most emotionally satisfying and resonant. The fact that it makes Order 66 infinitely sadder than it was in the prequels only solidifies its ranking above Lucas' trilogy. Old Friends Not Forgotten is the opening episode of the Siege of Mandalore and has everything you could want from a Star Wars episode, with a lot of that being what fans felt was missing from the prequels. Seeing Anakin and Obi-Wan in action against the Separatists explored the titular war better than any of the prequel movies. This allowed hero moments unlike many others in the prequels, from Obi-Wan slicing through a giant projectile to Anakin single-handedly winning the battle with the help of Rex, the rest of the 501st, and R2-D2. The reunion of Ahsoka and Anakin, the first time since The Wrong Jedi, adds intense emotion to the episode. Finally, Ahsoka's descent to Mandalore is suitably epic, setting the stage for the last 3 episodes. In terms of providing the spectacle of the Clone Wars, showing the emotion of the bonds forged during the conflict, and including badass Star Wars moments, Old Friends Not Forgotten stands above the prequels. The Phantom Apprentice, the 2nd episode of the Siege of Mandalore, is exactly the same. Everything that is part of Old Friends Not Forgotten is here, too, only with Maul's villainous presence added in, so I won't repeat myself here. What ranks The Phantom Apprentice above its predecessor, though, and the 3 prequel movies, is one of Star Wars' best lightsaber fights. Maul vs. Ahsoka is genuinely excellent, foregoing the wooden animation of previous Clone Wars lightsaber fights in favor of a motion capture duel. The fight flows much better as a result, allowing the performers, Ray Park and Lauren Mary Kim, to showcase their expert footwork and choreography. Even before this, the setup of the duel is brilliant. The writing is thought-provoking as Maul gives Ahsoka a speech about how her fight is futile against Sid's endless plans and schemes. Ahsoka almost considers joining Maul to defeat Sid IOUs until he reveals Anakin's role in things. Victory and Death is the series finale of the Clone Wars, and the 4th episode of the Siege of Mandalore. It builds on the prior 3 excellently, with exciting action as Ahsoka and a newly awakened Rex fight their way through their former comrades. Rex's tear-filled reaction to this showcases a level of emotion that the prequels rarely ever reached. The entire latter half of the episode embodies this further, giving the Clone Wars a deeply emotional send-off. The final scenes of Darth Vader finding Ahsoka's lightsabers are hauntingly beautiful, with one of the best final shots in TV history. In fact, Victory and Death is easily one of the best series finales ever made, in animation or otherwise. For this reason, Victory and Death goes down as perhaps the best episode in the entire show. Given how several other installments of Star Wars, the Clone Wars rank better than the prequel movies, Victory and Death does the same.